April the 2nd. I'm going to call a special city council meeting to order. Will the city secretary please call the roll? I called it at 6. Please call the roll.
Mitchell,
Here.
Rizzo,
Present.
Heiser,
Here.
Zuniga,
Present.
Harris,
Here.
Parsley, Tobias.
Present.
All right. All members are present. We have a quorum. Next up, citizen comments. Does anybody want to come forward and speak? Seeing none, it's now closed. Next up is executive session. City Council now go into executive session to discuss items 1A through 1A through L, pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, and 551.087. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion authorizing the city manager to negotiate the purchase of a water line easement and temporary construction easement from Dennis L. Miller and/or interested parties across the Dennis Miller Tract located at or near the intersection of Jackson Hayes Trail and FM 150 in Hayes County based on the city's appraisal, and to execute all documents necessary to purchase those easements on terms determined to be appropriate within bounds of the budget and in a form acceptable to the city attorney. Second. All right, motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Heiser. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right. Motion carries 7-0. Motion to adjourn. All right. We are adjourned. Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:04 p.m. It is Tuesday, April the 2nd. I'm going to call this regularly scheduled city council meeting to order. Would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the city secretary please call the roll?
Mitchell,
Here.
Rizzo,
Present.
Heiser,
Here.
Zuniga,
Present.
Harris,
Here.
Parsley,
Here.
Tobias.
Present.
All right, all members are present. We have a quorum. Next up, we're going to take a moment of privilege to recognize Councilmember Zuniga.
Thank you, everyone. I would like to just start with a moment of silence for the tragic deaths of our two members of our community, Ulysses Rodriguez Montoya, 5-year-old from Tom Green Elementary, and Mr. Ryan Wallace, and say thank you to the heroic efforts of the bus driver and for everyone who came out and to support our Hayes CISD community. So please join me in a moment of silence for them. Thank you, everyone. Hearts and prayers to their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Next up, approval of the minutes.
Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes for the city council meeting on March the 16th and the meetings on March 19th, special meetings, including the regular meeting for that time.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Parsley. We approve the minutes as presented. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, motion carries 7-0. Next up is citizen comments period. This time we ask anyone in the audience who wishes to come forward and speak on any item to please do so. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and that you direct those comments to the mayor and council. We also ask that you fill out a citizen comments form and submit that to either myself or the city secretary. I have a few folks who have registered. First up is Edward Bradley.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. My name is Ed Bradley. My wife Alice and I own Kyle's Bright Beginnings Learning Center here in Kyle. We currently have 160 students enrolled, approximately 45% of which receive child care subsidies. We're a Texas Rising Star, 4-star rated school, and we've been twice voted best in Hays County. I'm here tonight to ask you to support and adopt Proposition 2 to provide much-needed financial support to child care facilities in Kyle. Now, in 2023, the 88th Texas Legislature sent a constitutional amendment to voters to allow cities and counties to provide property tax relief to child care providers. In November 2023, the people of Texas overwhelmingly voted yes on Prop 2, allowing cities and counties to eliminate property tax for child care providers who support working families. In Hays County, 70% of voters supported Prop 2, higher than the state of Texas average of 65%. Decades of research have shown that birth to age 5 is the most important time in the learning and development of a child's life. Children who receive high-quality child care have better socioeconomic and health-related outcomes in life. They have higher academic achievement and higher lifetime earnings. Access to high-quality child care enables parents to work, providing higher family income, increased labor force participation, and higher career earnings. And this is especially true for women who carry most of the burden of caring for children in our society. This also benefits local business, as workers with access to child care experience fewer missed days, schedule changes, and disruptions due to turnover when employees have to quit to take care of their children. Research has shown that investing in high-quality early childhood education can provide up to a 13% return on investment for municipalities. On March 12th, the Hays County Commissioners Court approved the adoption of Proposition 2, and tonight I'm asking the City of Kyle to do the same. 100% adoption of Prop 2 would provide significant relief to child care providers. The amount of property tax that would be forgiven will be far exceeded by the economic and social benefits the city will receive. I'm requesting that the Kyle City Council vote to adopt Prop 2 to provide 100% property tax relief to qualifying child care centers in the city of Kyle to provide a better future for Kyle children, families, and businesses. And I'd also ask, I realize we can't do this tonight, but some urgency in pursuing this, as child care providers must apply for relief after the ordinance takes effect, but no later than April 30th. That was a statutory date built into the law. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bradley. All right, next up, Nancy Fahey.
Hi, I'm Nancy Fahey. I live in Steeplechase and have been a resident of Kyle for a long time. My comments regard item 20 concerning the proposed gas stipend and paid health insurance for the council and mayor. I oppose both of those. The city currently has procedures for mileage reimbursement. There's no reason to implement a stipend except for to circumvent the charter's compensation requirement for the council and mayor. Health insurance is generally part of a compensation package. Language in the proposed ordinance attempts to negate that. Yet during the last council meeting, when health insurance was discussed, much was said about the diligence and the time with which council members perform their duties. That clearly indicates that some of you believe that health insurance is part of compensation and for services performed by the council, and it can't be both ways. Either it is or it isn't. Additionally, health insurance is already available to the mayor and council. All they have to do is pay for it. I too believe in a perfect world, every person would have health care provided for them and health insurance. Our society has a capitalistic economy and not a socialistic one, so that perfect world doesn't exist for us. We must make decisions that support our needs and not ask for handouts that others don't and can't get. As there are already procedures in place for mileage reimbursement and options for council and mayor to obtain health insurance, to approve the proposed ordinance can only be seen as a way to increase the compensation you receive without complying with the city charter. In essence, the approval of the ordinance violates the charter and does so merely for your economic benefit and not for the city's. And this is something I thought of on the way in. Last week, it was mentioned that health insurance has been brought up several times and has been voted down several times. That might just be an indication that your constituents don't want to pay for it. So please consider that.
All right, thank you. Next up is Kelly Barron.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I am Kelly Barron with the Kyle Police Department Victim Services. And I just wanted to come tonight and just remind everybody, not just you guys, but within the community, that April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month as well as Child Abuse Awareness Month. And here in the city of Kyle, over the past few years, our numbers have definitely been increasing in regards to victimization. Whether it be child abuse or sexual assault, domestic violence, our numbers continue to increase. And so we're just here tonight to show appreciation for y'all's support of Victim Services and of the department, allowing us to better help victims and provide them with resources within the community. And I'm going to let Christine introduce herself.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Christine Dalton. I am the new Crime Victim Liaison. I'm super excited to be in the position and to join Team Kyle. Just to echo what Kelly said, we're just here to again show our appreciation and our support, with both proclamations happening tonight and with victim services being so needed in the city. So we're very grateful that we get to provide those services and that you support us in doing so.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is Betty Conley.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Betty Conley, and I live in Kyle, and I'm the president of the Kyle Area Senior Zone. I'm here for several things. One is to thank you all about the street lights. I see them going up for our neighborhood and community care, so that road is not so dark for our adults leaving and our children that are going to school. I'm also here to express that I do not support the insurance that you want from the city. It's not that you're denied insurance, you just have to pay for that insurance like many of us have to do. As many of us are aware, opportunity offered insurance is a privilege and a benefit. However, it is crucial that the council not place that burden of that privilege on the taxpayers. In addition to the cost to taxpayers, I believe the taxpayers funded insurance for council will compromise the integrity and future of the city council and candidates who choose to run. Will those who are running for the city council truly run to give service for the people, or will their motive be to obtain the insurance? When our part-timers who work for the city are not even eligible for that insurance, I don't see why city council puts them above them and thinks they should have that insurance. It's important to remember that although only 2 members of council are currently uninsured or need the insurance, in future it could be all 7, which would place an even bigger tax burden on residents. As a taxpayer, a voter, it is important for me to ensure that our elected officials are not unduly influenced by the source of their benefits, which for this city has steadily increased year over year. It is my hope that City Council sees the error in their way and will reconsider placing this financial burden on its residents, many of whom are on fixed incomes. Instead, I would hope to see our tax dollars spent on much-needed upgrades, city maintenance like roads, water, and Lord willing, one day a community activity event center with a senior component. The next issue I have is I'd like to have you move that agenda item 20 to the beginning of the list. I also would like to say one comment about the seniors asking for a senior center. I hear over and over that we're not part of the city. True, CAS is not, but CAS is composed of the seniors of the city. We are just the voice that are calculating to move forward for the seniors of Kyle. The seniors of Kyle are members of the city. Take that name CAS out of it and look at us as the seniors of Kyle. And we would like to have an activity center that has a senior component. And I was asked last time to give you a figure of square footage. We're looking at 15 to 20,000 square feet. By the time you put a dining room in for over 200 people, because we're always turning people away for their foods, and you put in a commercial kitchen, you hardly have enough for other crucial rooms that we need for seniors. Appreciate it and thank you. Have a blessed day.
All right, thank you. Next up is Yvonne Flores-Kale.
Good afternoon. I want to first request agenda item 20 to be moved to the top of the agenda. Good evening, members of council. My name is Yvonne Flores-Kale, and I'm a resident and a past council member of the city of Kyle. Before I get started, and for the record, I want to state I have no plans on running for any elected position in 2024. I come and speak before you today for the same reasons I spoke before you prior, and that's to express my concern of the continuous inequality that's going on in the city. In 2019, Alex Villalobos, Daphne Tenorio, and Robert Rizzo all voted against the first council pay increase, which provided each member of council a 900% increase in pay. In an article written by the Hayes Free Press, it stated that, quote, dissenting council members said they were against the pay for various reasons, from concern for fairness to part-time city employees, overall cost, and to the philosophy behind public service. It seems that based on the votes from the previous council meeting, some council members have changed their philosophy behind what it means to be a true public servant. Furthermore, in 2019, the City Council, upon the recommendation of the Compensation Committee, included the option to obtain health insurance as a benefit to the council. In 2022, there was another Compensation Committee, and on August 10th, the committee met to discuss and review policies related to the city's compensation, including credit cards, all those lovely credit cards, reimbursements, and any policies that fall in line with the city's charter. On that day, the committee unanimously voted 6-0 to leave the City Council's compensation as is for the upcoming fiscal year. During the council discussion regarding compensation, for which I inquired about a non-tax stipend to cover expenses like food and travel, a decision was made to include a $500 stipend on top of the council members' existing salaries. I want to emphasize that I voted against the stipend after the finance director informed us that it would be subject to taxation. My intention was to offset expenses, not raise our wages. In 2024, it's 2024, and once again, we find ourselves discussing additional council compensation for the third time in 5 years. I can't say I'm surprised, especially after Mayor Heiser approached me last year seeking assistance in finding a, quote, loophole to increase council pay. I made it clear then, as I do now, that I do not support such a move. Heiser shared with me his struggles with unemployment caused by a fallout with his business partner, leading them to part ways. A much different version from what he stated during the last council meeting, where he admitted that he felt he had to give either 0 to 100%, and because he was giving 100%, he couldn't continue to work. I would like to state mathematically there are a minimum of 99 numbers between 0 and 100. And in the event any elected official needs advice on how to balance both, please feel free to reach out to me. I managed to work 2 jobs and still give 40 hours a week to my elected position. As a reminder, the argument that everyone should have health care is not up for discussion. You are not voting on insurance for everyone. You are voting on insurance for yourself. In keeping true to the 3 council members of 2019, it is important to remember that being a genuine servant of your community should not impose a burden on taxpayers.
All right, thank you. Next up, Domingo Castilla.
Mayor, City Council, and my comments are in respect to item 20. As you know, 2 weeks ago, I voted against it, right? And I'm going to vote against it again. The reason being, as a former business college professor, one of the aspects that I taught my students was something called fiduciary responsibility, which means you're responsible for taking care of every dollar you collect from the citizens of Kyle. And so that's the reason I'm against this health issue. And I hope you take into account, and I hope you vote against it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up, Courtney Goza.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Goza. I'm a resident of Kyle and have been here since 2017. I also am asking for agenda item 20 to be moved to the top of the list. I also am here to agree with all of the others who are against it. I do not think that it is something that the city council should be voting for on themselves. The compensation committee is set to meet every 3 years. They review all of your compensation as a whole. And now you're wanting to circumvent the city charter and that organized process to benefit yourselves. That cannot be allowed to stand. You cannot put your own interests above the people that you agreed to serve. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Abby Gibson.
Hello, Mayor and council members. My name is Abby Gibson. I live in Waterleaf. I've been a resident of Kyle for over 10 years. I want to speak out against item 20 for the insurance. We have a petition going around that has garnered over 100 signatures from residents of Kyle in the last 3 hours. And I want to commend you guys for volunteering to represent the community. I know it's a big ask, and not everyone signs up to do that. With signing up for that, there comes responsibility. And part of that responsibility is managing the purse of the taxpayer funds. I want to also commend you for voting to get rid of this insurance that you're proposing, because it does not benefit the city of Kyle. It will only serve to benefit the council members. I agree with what the other citizens have said. I don't feel it is necessary. I think it is unethical. And I also think it is distasteful when we are living in a time of very high inflation. And again, our city employees, our part-time city employees, do not even have that benefit. I'm appalled that there's even the audacity that y'all would get together and think, hey, this is a good idea. We should really do this. I think the city of Kyle, I think our citizens would really want this for us. We've spoken out, we do not want this. So please represent us fairly and honestly. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That is all the citizen comment forms that I have. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? Ms. Tenorio. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Linda Tenorio. I just want to, I don't really agree with the insurance, and probably most people don't. I just wish that you would take care of the employees of Kyle, because the ones that voted you in, and make the employees of Kyle the priority and not the council. It's not about you. You were not voted in to serve yourself with whatever benefits you want. So it's not all about you. You were voted in to represent the city of Kyle, the citizens, and that's what they're hoping that you would do. Represent them, think about them, and not so much about you. If you voted, if you wanted to get on the council just because you want salaries and benefits, and I don't know how much money you receive, the $500 card. I don't know about that, so I can't speak on that. But please consider the position that you're here to serve the people. And I also want to mention that Ms. Yvonne stands here and criticizes y'all, but not too long ago, she was on that side, and she mentioned she wanted the city to give money to her for dressing, for clothes, because they will represent the city. And now she's on the other side, so no, y'all doing wrong. But she was, when she was on the council, she did wanted the city to give her money, extra money, besides all the benefits that y'all get, so they can buy clothes. I mean, isn't that ridiculous? Thank you so much for letting me speak.
All right, thank you. All right, is there anyone else who wishes to come forward?
Hello, Council, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem. How are you doing tonight? Hopefully well. I come to speak on several things. First of all, I'm going to turn around because I need to thank the community. The city of Kyle supported me the past 3 months during a very trying time for me. Miss Cynthia Bennett with Unforgettable Families and Friends brought me food while I was in a hotel room, stuck in a hotel room, until I could get to a rehab hospital. Amanda Stark came and brought me just friendship, food, and whatever I needed. The support that I got from the members of the community was amazing. And I appreciate everybody, and also another shout out for the ladies at the Hampton Inn. Thank you very much. With that said, item 20. Several years ago when I was on council, I did vote against it. I was still new to council, and at that time we were growing, not to the expanse that we are now. And I honestly did not feel that the positions were full-time positions. However, by 2020, it started to become a full-time position because we had a lot of task force and forces and such. If this had happened to one of the non-employed members of council, this would put them out $80,000 without insurance. That's a large burden on somebody who has, first of all, given their full time, their heart, to sitting up on that dais. And just because of a misstep, that's all this was a misstep. That is a terrible burden to put on anybody. I am just very grateful. I have a full-time position and a job that let me continue part-time even while I was in the hospital. I was on my laptop working. So I just want you guys to think about that. If you were in the hospital or a rehab for a month, what would that do to you and your family, and also to the members of this community, because you could not do your job? So thank you for that.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to come forward? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close citizen comments. Citizen comments is now closed. All right, next up is agenda order. Does anybody have any items they wish to move around? Councilmember Tobias.
Go ahead and bring up item 20.
Yeah, I'm going to object to that. So we'll have to take a vote. Second reading of an item. We've discussed it. Everybody's given their statements. It's obviously polarizing, but we have a lot of business to attend to.
I understand, but still, I'd like to understand why we are going to not discuss this. Because even though it says second reading, I'm still trying to understand why you would refuse to want to bring this up at this time.
All right, we can have a vote on it. I just don't think it's appropriate to do it at second meeting in a row to make that the front headliner. We have real business, so you can make a motion to bring it forward. We'll take a vote.
I'd like to make a motion to bring this item 20 up to the beginning of the agenda order.
All right, motion by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Parsley, that we bring agenda item 20 to the front. Is there discussion on that motion? All right, roll call.
Harris,
No.
Tobias,
Aye.
Mitchell,
No.
Rizzo,
No.
Zuniga,
Yes.
Heiser,
No.
Parsley.
All right, motion fails 3-4. Any other items you wish to move around?
There you go.
All right, next up is agenda item number 3, appointments. Consider approval of a resolution to make appointments to the Alliance Regional Water Authority Board of Directors. Ms. Schmeitz.
Good
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amber Schmeitz, Assistant City Manager for the record. Tonight we have before you a request to make appointments to the ARWA Board. We're asking you to consider a resolution to approve those appointments for terms expiring in April of 2024. A little bit about ARWA. They are a regional water authority that was formed for the purpose of resolving the long-term water needs of its sponsors. It was originally created in 2007 as the Hayes Caldwell Public Utility Agency and then converted to Alliance Water in the 2017 legislative session. They provide water on a wholesale basis for sponsors. The sponsors are San Marcos, Kyle Buda, Canyon Regional Water Authority, and then they represent 4 other entities, and they're governed by a 13-member board of directors appointed by the sponsors. Kyle holds 3 seats on the board. Representation on the 13-member board are proportional to each individual entity. Appointments must be made not earlier than April 1st and not later than April 30th. The new or reappointed directors will take office May 1st of 2024 and will serve a 3-year term. The guidelines for the appointment are that these people must be at least 18 years of age and a resident of the territory located in the authority or an employee of the sponsor. Board composition and meetings, like I said, is 13 members. There are 2 elected officials currently on the board. 10 city, SUD, or regional water authority employees also represent. The meetings are the 3rd Wednesday of every month at 3 p.m. and sometimes they meet on site, but most of the meetings are virtual. So options for you all tonight. You can reappoint the city manager, Brian Langley. You can appoint a mayor or a council member. You can appoint a City of Kyle employee, appoint a City of Kyle resident, or not appoint anybody. And staff is recommending the reappointment of the city manager, making the appointment of Mike Murphy, the Director of Water Utilities, and also appointing the mayor or a council member of the council's choosing. Questions?
All right, thank you, Ms. Schmeitz. I think that adding Mr. Murphy and the city manager they're both good appointments. I had a suggestion for a council member if anybody was open to that. Since Dr. Harris has been elected to the position, I've seen that she's had a great interest in water, not only just from the standpoint of seeing it as a precious resource, but also the technical aspects of what a water project can bring. And so I thought that since we're doing the restructuring, this would be a good time to put Dr. Harris on that board. And I talked to her about the time commitment because it's definitely a during the week time commitment. If you have any thoughts on that, or if anybody had any other suggestions. Councilmember Zuniga.
I was going to say the same thing about you, Dr. Laura Lee. I think you've been an advocate for water conservation, and you've kept us informed just immediately when you got on council. So if you had the time and availability, I was going to ask you to serve.
Thank you. I do have the time. I'm fortunate to be retired, and that's one of the reasons that I have the ability to do midday meetings. I do have an interest in water. My Master Naturalist certification is a really good asset on this because we study the aquifers, we study water issues, and I have a good grounding in that as well as with my master's in public administration. I know how water works, so I would be happy to serve as our voice on that council. Thanks.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mike Murphy, Brian Langley, and Dr. Harris to the ARWA board.
Second.
Our motion by the mayor, second by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Motion carries 7-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Godspeed. All right. Next up is agenda item number 4, proclamation recognizing Child Abuse Prevention Month and approval of a temporary pinwheel garden display at Mary Kyle Hartson Park. Dr. Harris.
Okay. Whereas more than 63,989 cases of child abuse and neglect were confirmed in Texas in 2023, resulting in 9,962 children in foster care in Texas, and the death of 173 children in Texas in 2023. And whereas 286 children were confirmed victims of abuse in Hayes County in 2023. And whereas child abuse prevention is a community responsibility and finding solutions depends on involvement among all people, through the perseverance of our many community organizations working daily to end child abuse, we continually serve children throughout the pandemic. And whereas locally, representatives from Hayes County Child Protective Board, Hayes County District Attorney's Office, Hayes Caldwell Women's Center and Roxanne's House, Greater San Marcos Youth Council, Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, court-appointed special advocates, CASA, San Marcos, Buda, and Kyle Police Departments, Hayes County Sheriff's Office, and Christus Santa Rosa, San Marcos, have joined forces to provide preventative and supportive services to child victims and their family, whereas every child in Kyle deserves to be safe, nurtured, and supported in caring relationships. Now, therefore, I, Laura Lee Harris, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as Council Member, District 4 of the City of Kyle, Texas, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month, and do hereby call upon the citizens of Kyle to work together to raise awareness and prevent child abuse in our community and beyond. In testimony thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Kyle, Texas, this 2nd day of April 2024. Laura Lee Harris. Do you want to talk about the kindergarten?
Sure, go ahead.
The Hayes County Child Protective Board has requested that we permit a display to be put out in a public area in the city of Kyle. It would be a blue pinwheel garden with a Prevent Child Abuse sign to go with that. And we're suggesting that a good place for that would be in Mary Kyle Hartson Park, where there is so much traffic around there, and that it will be available, we hope, for our market days in April.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Does anybody have any additional thoughts or comments? Do you want to do yours at the same time?
I was going to say yes, that way we can all together.
Just one picture?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to also bring up agenda item number 6, proclamation recognizing Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Councilmember Parsley.
Whereas 6.3 million Texans have experienced some form of sexual assault in their lifetime, and whereas 2 in 5 women and 1 in 5 men in Texas have been sexually assaulted in their lifetime, affecting all races, ages, genders, and economic situation. And whereas the Hayes Caldwell Women's Center provided direct services to 616 adult victims of sexual assault in Hayes and Caldwell counties last year. And whereas the City of Kyle is intolerant of sexual violence in any form and recognizes that education and awareness may prevent sexual assault. And whereas efforts to reduce sexual assault can only be successful through citizens' involvement and the safety of citizens of the City of Kyle depends upon our actions to end sexual assault. Therefore, I, Daniela Parsley, by virtue of the authority vested in me as a council member, District 5 of the City of Kyle, Texas, do hereby proclaim April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month.
Do you have folks here that you want to come speak?
Yes. I don't know if we have any representatives from the Hayes Caldwell Women's Center.
Esperanza Orozco.
Okay.
We're all here from the Women's Center here.
Okay.
Yeah, we just want to do a picture. All right, pictures.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do them all together. If y'all can kind of center yourselves down at the bottom with to be centered with the council also.
Good.
Oh, Cooper's there too, all right. Okay, too short. All right. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Even got the doggy looking at the camera.
All
Can
right.
we leave the dog here?
The dog was stealing the show earlier. All right, next up, we're going to bring up Agenda Item 5, Proclamation Recognizing Autism Awareness Month. Councilmember Tobias.
Thank you, Mayor. Just right off the bat, I want to thank my colleagues on the dais here for representing Autism Awareness Day, wearing the color blue. They really showed some solidarity on that, and I really appreciate that, especially those in the audience. Normally, we have my son, Mighty Matthew, that would normally come up and speak, but he's at a Lehman baseball game. They gave him the honor of throwing out the first pitch today for their new field, and it's also because of the celebration or the awareness of autism today. So in 2023, the CDC reported that approximately 1 in 36 children in the U.S. is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. Most children were still being diagnosed after the age of 4, though autism can be relatively diagnosed as early as the age of 2. So to give everybody a better understanding, people with ASD often have difficulty with social environments, emotional and communication skills. They might repeat certain behaviors, display movements such as rocking body back and forth. Sometimes you see people producing humming noises and sounds and covering their ears in normal settings. Many people with autism also have different ways of learning, paying attention, or reaching to different situations and surroundings, which sometimes can be very difficult. Loud noises, bright flashing lights, and certain environments can be challenging for those with autism. Over the next decade, it is estimated 707,000 to 1,116,000 teens will be entering into the adulthood or out of school based on autism services. But with early intervention, inclusion, and acceptance, children and adults living with autism can learn to socialize, work, and live healthy, productive lives. So during the month of April, autism awareness is recognized in so many different ways, including, like today, World Autism Day, which is celebrated every April 2nd. Signs of autism awareness and support are seen everywhere. For example, when you see a colorful ribbon or a puzzle piece in the month of April, that puzzle pattern usually reflects the complexity of autism. The different colors and shapes represent the diversity of people and families living with this disorder all over the world. The brightness of this ribbon, along with the color blue, like we're all here showing, it gives signals of hope. Hope for all who are affected, hope for acceptance, hope for appreciation, and hope for love and support for all the caregivers, families, and friends of these individuals. So to all the parents, moms, dads, brothers and sisters, families and friends, you are not alone. We hear you, and we as a city are there for you. So people with autism in our community have the right to access adequate health care, affordable housing opportunities, and other available resources needed to live a good, healthy life and independent life. Like everyone else, people with autism deserve the right to attend public schools, receive quality education, and gain rightful employment. And when they gain employment, like Matthew did, got his first job last summer, they can learn to provide for themselves, earn a wage, and earn a paycheck, and of course, become taxpayers. So when they become taxpayers, their voice just got a little louder. Why? They are now become registered voters. Their voice just got a little louder. In closing, bringing awareness is recognizing and gaining knowledge of those of the spectrum. Encountering someone with autism, let us continue to show compassion and understanding, not stares or gossip. People with autism are people just like you and me. Individuals with autism are people with special gifts and talents. They should be treated as full members of our society in every community, including ours here in Kyle. So with that, I'd like to read the proclamation. Whereas World Autism Awareness Day was designed by the United Nations in 2007 in an effort to end stigmatization and discrimination against those with autism. The Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disability recognizes the rights of persons with disabilities to independence of a person and individual autonomy, and whereas all are encouraged to wear blue and light up your house or business in blue in order to support World Autism Awareness Day. The color blue is internationally recognized as a symbol of hope and support for World Autism Awareness Day, and whereas autism spectrum disorder is characterized by deficits in communication, social interaction, and restrictive repetitive patterns of behavior, and whereas these characteristics may present in a wide variety of ways to different degrees of severity and can cause individuals with autism spectrum to have lifelong challenges related to people, objects, and events, and whereas children, youth, and adults with autism spectrum disorder and their families can benefit from community support and with the assistance of increasing number of individuals with autism spectrum disorder are able to live and work independently. So now therefore I, Michael Tobias, by the virtue vested in me as City Council Member District 6, City of Kyle, hereby proclaim April 2nd, 2024, World Autism Awareness Day, and encourage the entire city to wear blue and light it up for the entire month of April. So I want to thank everybody for letting me bring that forward again. This is probably my third time bringing that forward. And I want to, again, thank the dais for their continued support on this as well. And if there's anybody who would like to take a quick picture, I'd be more than happy to have y'all.
If anyone in the audience would like to come up too.
If y'all can scooch in just a little bit on the end so I can get everyone. All right, go for it. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. All right, thank y'all.
All right, next up, we have consent agenda items 7 through 13. Does anybody have any items they wish to pull or to ask questions on? Councilor Zuniga.
Oh, sorry.
I'd like to ask some questions and pull agenda item 8.
All right. Is that yours as
Same
well?
one.
All right. Anyone else? Motions?
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda items 7 through 13, 13, excluding 8.
Second.
All right, motion by Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by Councilmember Parsley, that we approve agenda items 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Is there discussion on that motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Next up is agenda item 8, consider approval of task order number 3 with HDR in the amount of $116,414 for evaluation of expansion of reclaimed water distribution system from the golf course holding pond. This item is sponsored by Mr. Barba. Councilmember Zuniga.
Hey, Leon, I just would like for you to do the presentation first.
Sure.
Right? So everyone's on the same page with it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Leon Barba, City Engineer. This is some of the background on the reclaimed water line that we're proposing. The growth has increased, causing an increase in potable water throughout the city. We've identified wastewater recycling and reuse as a strategy to reduce that potable water demand. Cobb Finley was one of our engineering firms that prepared a reclaimed water master plan back in 2023, and they proposed expansion in all 4 quadrants of the city. The plan identified Plum Creek Golf Course to be the highest demand of reclaimed water. Obviously, it's taking care of the golf course at this point in time. I believe their requirement is about 900 1,000 gallons per day or something like that. And during the summer, they use quite a bit of it. The proposed line will also be able to tie into the existing reclaimed water line at Heroes Memorial and serve the Brick Memorial District in the future. If council will recall, we extended a reclaimed water line underneath Kohler's back when they were building the Heroes Memorial Center, and we extended up to the south side of Kohler's. And the intent was to eventually tie that into a line leading up Cromwell from the golf course and tie into that line, and eventually feed the brick and mortar, and especially the soccer fields. The big things that we're looking for this particular study, there's three things. I want to just kind of try to point out the three things that we're looking for this study to accomplish for us. One, we have a pond there today. It's an existing pond. It is not a detention pond. It's just a pond that holds that reclaimed water for us. And it's pumped out of there and goes for the watering of the golf course. It's a type 2 water, which means it's not something that you want to have people playing in or walking in or getting involved with. So it needs to be done at night or when there's nobody around that particular system. The first thing we want them to identify is that pond big enough for us that we can pump up to through Commonwealth to the Heroes Memorial Park and have enough water to feed the brick and mortar section, especially the soccer fields up in that area. That's the first thing we want them to look at. We may have to make that pond bigger. We just don't know that yet. The second thing we want to look at is there's a pump station there today that's not in really good shape, and so we do maintain that pump from what I understand. But we also want to look at making one pump house, taking that one out that's existing, move that pump house to a better location to where we could get to it a lot easier to maintain. We have talked to the owner of the park. They're agreeable to that, what we're proposing, so they've been in our conversations as we've talked about the possibility of moving that pump station. As we build that pump station, we also need to make sure they have the proper pumps, that they're sized properly to be able to push that water up Cromwell and up to the soccer fields. The third thing we wanted to do was to make sure that what size pipe do we need there? Is it a 6-inch? Is it an 8-inch? Is 8-inch going to be enough to feed all those areas in there? So that's the purpose of this study, is to see and look at those three things that we want them to identify. And of course, the option that we're recommending is going to be to approve that task order so we can continue on with that reclaimed water line.
Councilman Zuniga, you have any questions?
Yeah. So I had several questions and I did ask Brian about this. So my understanding is that the golf course uses a lot of our reclaimed water. They're our biggest user. Did they run out last year? Because now we have identified it as the highest priority again. So they already are using reclaimed water.
They are the only user of
only
reclaimed water
users.
that we have. And I'm not sure how much water they've used over the last year. I'd have to ask the water utility folks if they have that information.
Mhm.
But my understanding is those pumps, we have 2 pumps at the plant. And during the summer, my understanding, those pumps are running 24/7. They're just running all the time, and they're having maintenance issues, those pumps.
So I'm very happy about expanding the Purple Pipe and this reclaimed water, especially to the Heroes Memorial. But this area is also in a TERS. And there are other parks that I was referring to Brian about that also need irrigation. These parks are the older parks, like Steeplechase, Lake Kyle, Waterleaf. They're in dire need of irrigation as well. And so when I remember the study about how we were going to get into increasing reclaimed water in the city, they did focus on those 4 quadrants. And specifically, they said that tying the quadrant closest to the wastewater treatment plant would be the quickest way to bring the Purple Pipe and reclaim water up to use. So my only concern is that we're earmarking $3 million. And I would have liked to see an earmark for some of the older parks that need irrigation as well, so that we can start designing how we can get sprinklers there. So it just seems to me like the area is already resource rich, and we're going to add more infrastructure where there are older parks that need irrigation just as much. So that's a little heartbreaking to me. And I know, Brian, you said we could
I
talk
have my
about
hand
this
up,
in
sorry.
budget to to kind of accelerate some of the irrigation needed at some of the older parks?
Yes, sir. So we did have the master plan for the reclaimed water system. It was, I believe, $160 million to build out the entire system. So this is just one very small piece of that. I know it's a lot of money, obviously, but there's a lot of what we believe high volume users that are potentially going to be in line for this. So that's one of the reasons that this project was selected. There's certainly lots of opportunities to look at other projects in the budget process that we've talked about. The other thing that we're going to be doing is looking at our water master plan to see, do we need to be pursuing the implementation of all that reclaimed water infrastructure, that $160 million, or is there a different path to how we can reuse that water, potentially treating it and sending it back out through the normal distribution system that we have? So there's a number of things that we need to look at. Mr. Murphy and Leon are going to be looking at that and then bringing us something back probably this fall. STV is a firm that we engaged to help us do that, but I don't have an answer for that just yet, but certainly there's lots of opportunities for projects. I think, frankly, all of the parks should be irrigated at some point. It's just putting those online and putting all that infrastructure in place. It does take time.
So then the second thing to that is if we do the study and we put the $3 million into the infrastructure, what's going to happen is, because I've seen this before, is that the next time the study comes for Purple Pipe, the rationale is going to be, well, we already have this here. It's already ready to go and to tie in. And so we sort of unintentionally not or delay the irrigation schedule at the older parks. And that's where I'm trying to kind of be very careful and mindful of that what's going to happen is, okay, we did this design, and this is where it's ready to go. And of course, it's ready to go because we just started to put this in that trajectory to start putting in that reclaimed water infrastructure. And so I guess if we kept it on par with some of the older parks as well, this would be a much more easier, yes, let's use the $3 million here. So we're not keeping it on par, is my concern.
Councilmember, a couple of things I just wanted to bring up. This particular project started before the pandemic. It was part of a wastewater interceptor that's going to go through the golf course. You'll probably see at the next council meeting an amendment to a contract to add some more funding for the continued development of that project. This started before the pandemic. It was part of a bigger project, a wastewater project, as I mentioned. And we got delayed by the pandemic. We got delayed by getting easements. We finally got the easements. We also got delayed by major cost in pipe. Big pipe was hard to find. You couldn't find big pipe there for a while. So, but the other criteria that we had to work under is this: the owner wants us to work in the golf course between November and February. So we have to make sure when we issue our contract that we have to give the contractor time to get through the project to where we get out of the golf course at that time. So every time we try to get this project ready, something delayed us. So we pulled that piece out of that project that we started back before the pandemic because we found a different route that we can use to going up through Cromwell. The other thing I wanted to mention that we're continuing to install Purple Pipe. We have some major interceptors that are going to the plant. One's about 90% designed, and the other one's just started design. The council just approved that contract recently. So we're still needing to get pipe to the plant. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a pump station that can barely handle the flows that are needed at the golf course. So ultimately, we need a new pump station at the plant to continue pumping even more water, reclaimed water, out to the areas that we want to serve.
Yeah, understood, Leon. And like the only point I was trying to make is that we can diversify the reclaimed water specifically at some of the older parks, because we have for decades not had irrigation. And that's one of the reasons we don't have large trees at some of these parks, is there's no sprinklers for them. And of course, we don't want to use drinking water. So that's just how I would feel about this.
Understood.
Councilmember Parsley.
Thank you. So what I was looking at the Reclaimed Water Master Plan, and I do see that there is a map that outlines the two separate ponds from Plum Creek, the actual neighborhood, as the first housing for, it's called Plum Creek Site 1. However, this pump is currently inside the golf course, correct? And that's the one that we are trying to expand? The
That's
one that
correct.
is inside it? My understanding was that those two ponds in Plum Creek were also feeding the reclaimed water system. Am I wrong?
There's only one pond.
It's the one that is on the golf course. So the ones that are in Plum Creek have never used reclaimed water?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so is there any way that we can try to tie to those? Because that was my understanding that those two ponds were, and that could be a bigger feeder to the system. I don't know what will need to happen for us to try to tie to those two ponds. Have probably a bigger impact into the use of reclaimed water, or will we need to install a pump
I
on
wish
those
we
two?
could, but from what I understand with TCEQ rules, because it is a detention pond, it would get back into the stream. You can't do that with reclaimed water.
But
It has to
those
be a
two
separate
ponds don't go back
facility.
to the stream, do
Pardon?
they? The ones in Plum Creek, they don't? I'm talking about the neighborhood. The two
Those are
ponds.
detention ponds.
Okay, got it. So it is just outlined in the map as if the feeding water was from the Plum Creek actual neighborhood, that was the water feeding the reclaimed water plan. That's what I see here in the in the
There's that
reclaimed
pond-
master plan, sorry.
That pond that you see on the map, that is the pond that we pump into, and that's where we're going to pull the water from. That's not a detention pond.
All right. I got it now.
All right, Councilmember Heiser.
Thank you. Leon, I just have two questions. The first being, are there any other access points to the purple pipe since we received the presentation on the Reclaim Water Master Plan? Like any new access points since
Not that I'm aware
middle
of.
to late last
Councilmember.
year? Okay, and if we were to expand this detention pond, would it be up to the city's decision as to where that water goes?
Yes.
So just because we might expand this doesn't necessarily mean the golf course gets the water if we deem it more important to go elsewhere?
They have a contract, but I'm not sure the details, but we do have to fulfill our contract with the golf course folks.
Which we already are doing, correct?
That's correct.
So anything above the current contract is what I'm saying. So any sort of investment and an expansion in this, because I understand your point. But to protect us from, what your fear here is we would have the ability to make that decision that the water could go elsewhere.
That's our expectation.
Right, yeah, good, okay. And then just lastly, the 3 million for the grant, that can go to any reclaimed water project, right? It doesn't necessarily have to go to this project?
Amber Schmeitz, Assistant City Manager. It can go to any of the projects. This one is the most close to construction dollars, which is what we want to use and we are also being urged to spend these dollars as quickly as possible. So it's the project that is the most shovel-ready.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add that, this project isn't coming out of nowhere. So as Leon has said, it goes back to before the pandemic, which is when we originally envisioned a sportsplex going in on the north end of the brick and mortar district, which we asked the voters for and they approved. But the reality is if you're going to build a sportsplex, you need to come up with a solution that's environmentally sensitive. And so this has been a part of developing that sportsplex project for all of these years. So, I mean, if you don't do this, then how are we going to water those fields? With potable water? That's subject to droughts, which means we won't be able to keep the fields healthy and won't be able to provide the service. So this is the path towards delivering high-quality sportsplexes with drought-resistant, good real turf. If not this, then what is what I would ask.
No, I mean, we want this, but we also don't want to exacerbate the decades of neglect of some of the older parks who don't have that irrigation system. And then I'll be sitting here next year with the new study that comes, a $30 million amount, and it's ready to go, and it's shovel-ready again, where you can guess where it's going to be shovel-ready. So what I'm saying is, if we could keep it on par, because that wastewater treatment plant is very close to Lake Kyle, Steeplechase, and Waterleaf. And those parks have no grown trees. The dirt fields are dry out there as well.
Well, you're not wrong. I mean, you can go back many, many years.
And,
Me being completely just bewildered that we were going out and watering those trees by hand.
They
And
wilt,
then-
they're dead
and
because you can't.
that's correct, but that's a separate
Right.
issue from, are we doing the right thing here? Let's go get irrigation on these other parks. It is a tragedy that the
It's a
trees at
sep-
steeplechase have to be
I
watered
still
by,
think
but it's not this issue.
I think it's the same type of issue.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just want to say, actually, those are not the older parks. The older park is Greg Clark Park. And the good thing is that last year, we did approve purple pipe all through the park. So we added purple pipe. The purple pipeline is on Stagecoach, close to being tied in. We definitely would be the second project we would identify and look at. So if your concern is about didn't the older park, the two older parks in Kyle are Greg Clark Park, Merrill Hartson Park as well. So, but we do have a plan for Greg Clark Park. Purple pipe's already been put in the ground. And the only thing we need now is a tie-in, so that would probably be the next project that would be shovel-ready if we needed to do that tie-in. But it's identifying the plan, right? So getting it right. But that's definitely the one that would be closer to getting done, and then hopefully we could do the other parks as well.
Right.
No, honestly, I'd love to see purple pipe in all our parks, making sure that we're not putting an aspiration on our water system, right? So it's important, but we definitely, as a council, have slowly been working that way. I
Right.
promise you.
But just, I'll end it, not to debate, I mean, to respect, I want to respect the council members. But the source of the wastewater effluent that gets discharged into Plum Creek is right next to 3 of our parks that have no irrigation. So I think our water director will probably agree with that. We're discharging it into the creek. So we got to figure out a way to loop it to serve those older parks.
Is there any way we can put a map on the screen that has the 2 Plum Creek detention ponds and the one that has the golf course? I'm just trying to understand something into the scope of work if we're going to be approving, the design of this. I want to understand how that section of the reclaimed water works to see if we can potentially use some of the, and I'm talking about Plum Creek, the neighborhood detention ponds, to try to, I don't know if there is any way for us to add any aeration or anything like that that could help us feed the purple pie to have a bigger capacity when we're moving this or doing these designs in order to water the rest of the parks.
I just don't think we're going to be able to workshop a solution on this item.
No, but is there
Because
any
that's
way
a
that we
technical-
can add that into a future agenda to see if there is any way that we can tie
Yeah,
up to those 2 ponds?
Yeah, I think the direction of the council is that you'd like us to come back with, what would be a phased approach to adding something to the parks. We can do that. Again, I do want to point out that we're trying to evaluate whether purple pipe is the proper solution
Yeah.
or if it's a different way to handle our water
I agree.
system. And I think that's an analysis that's going to take us a few months to kind of get there, but we can certainly come back with that. I also want to point out that one of the things that we're working on, and it'll come to you in the near future, is a plan to improve all of our existing parks. So I hear the concerns about some of the older parks, and I think those are valid concerns. And we are going to be bringing you a plan to reinvest in those parks. So not just new parks, but the existing ones we have. So you'll see some of that. I think water's a big part of it, and we need to kind of give you some options of how that would be handled. And maybe there's some simple things that could be done, but I don't know if we're going to have a comprehensive answer of how to take it from detention ponds and to move it. There's also, the fluent is going to be treated at a higher standard. This gets a little out beyond my technical capabilities, but as we have our next wastewater treatment upgrade, we'll actually have higher quality, which may give us some more options of how we could use that water. And Leon, if that's
correct.
incorrect or not, you let me know.
That's fine. I can ask my questions later on.
All right. Any further discussion on this item? Motions?
I would like to make a motion to approve item 8.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilmember Parsley, second by the Mayor Pro Tem that we approve agenda item 8. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, next up is agenda item number 14, first reading. Consider approval of an ordinance adopting and endorsing the city's water conservation plan with amendments. Mr. Sanford.
Obviously, I'm not Mr. Stanford. anyhow, Tim is in the back of the room. We're going to be working together on this one. I'm Mike Murphy, your Director of Water Utilities and Public Works. So what we're asking for tonight, and good evening, Mayor and Council, good to see you all. We're going to be asking for a reauthorization of our water conservation ordinance. Water conservation ordinance, just a quick reminder, is the current, I think I've got control of this, right? So the purpose of the water conservation plan is to ensure the water use efficiency within our operation. The water conservation plan is a strategy or combination of strategies for reducing the consumption of water, reducing the loss or waste of water, and improving or maintaining the efficiency and the use of water. Several things going on there. So the Texas Water Development Board requires a revision to the water conservation plan every 5 years. And you can see from this presentation, we're a little bit behind schedule on that. The most recent plan was adopted by City Council in 2012. Now, it is my understanding that there was a revision submitted to the Texas Water Development Board in 2019, but it still doesn't make us current. So one of my goals and one of the reasons Mr. Langmy brought me here is to get back on track on a lot of these things, make us compliant with TCEQ and the Texas Water Development Board. So my goal is to move forward with the amendment to the Water Conservation Plan. It is due to Texas Water Development Board May 1st, 2024. The submission deadline for public water systems greater than 3,300 connections, and of course, Kyle now has several thousand connections above that number. So our plan is to get this approved. Now, the plan that we're proposing, the Water Conservation Plan, is the same plan that we've had over the last several years. We're just making amendments to the plan that updates and makes it current with our population, with our water capacity, with several key factors on the cost of selling water, many things like that that are in the Water Conservation Plan. Now, in no way do we think this is going to fully cover everything that we need to do based on the incredible growth that the city of Kyle is experiencing, not only with water, but with our population. And so what our plan is to get these amendments submitted to the Texas Development Board before May the 1st, or Texas Water Development Board before May the 1st, and that will make us current with our responsibility to having those revisions to them on time. And in the meantime, you've heard us talk about the Water Master Plan several times here tonight, and also one of the things that Leon was talking about, the Water Reclamation Plan. So we are currently upgrading our Water Master Plan. We have hired STV Engineering to upgrade our Water Master Plan. And so what's going to be included in that master plan is a complete overhaul of our Water Conservation Plan. So in addition to the Water Conservation Plan, we're going to tailor a very specific drought contingency plan for the city of Kyle. And right now, we're using sort of a hybrid model that was created to address the drought that we're currently in. But we're going to take this opportunity to create something specifically for Kyle, so we'll know exactly where we stand with trigger points for water restrictions from this time, or from the time we submit that on. It will be specifically for us and our water sources that we currently have, and the water sources that we're going to have hopefully by the 1st of next year. So what we're asking is that you accept these revisions, amendments to the to the Water Conservation Plan, and we move this forward. And then we'll come back, hopefully within the first quarter of 2025, with a new Water Conservation Plan, including a very robust drought contingency plan.
So, Mike, you're saying the water plan that we just authorized, that contract, it's going to take a year before we get that finalized, or?
We hope to have the first revised report on the, are you talking about the Water Master Plan?
Yeah, we just, it's like 300 something grand a couple meetings ago.
The first quarter of 25.
First quarter of 25, okay. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Murphy? Councilmember Zuniga.
Hello, Mr. Murphy. Is the backup material the amended water conservation plan that we are proposing to pass today?
Yes.
With the blue?
Yes,
So
the blue
highlights?
line, that is you saw the before and after, the
Right.
blue line is the
Yeah.
after.
So I had a few like recommendations, and maybe we could see about updates with it. Do we have to be at 114 gallons per day? Can we be tighter, maybe 100? If you do the calculation of our
Yeah.
population, I think it's
Yeah,
closer to 60.
There's flexibility in those numbers for sure.
So
Yeah,
is it just really tough to get to 100 gallons? Because we really only use 5% to drink.
Yeah,
The rest of it is toilets and
right.
washing. So maybe, could we look at a lower number, 110?
Well, we could always go lower.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't say that you can't, but
Mhm.
this just kind of puts what we think is going to be. Now, we can make amendments like like I was saying, when we do the
Mhm.
revisions or sort of the remake of our water conservation plan, we'll have more accurate numbers that we'll be able to plug in.
Mhm.
And right now, we're working with STV. We had a meeting as recent as today with them on that, so we'll definitely plug in the numbers on if they change.
Would it be also possible to consider mandatory efficiency inspections for commercial that does irrigation, where they have to be inspected every 2 years? And also for any commercial vehicle washing, efficiency inspections.
Yeah.
This is just to control water use. And maybe also look at any cooling tower efficiencies.
Yeah.
If any of our biggest users are relying on those cooling towers.
Right.
And then secondly, if we could maybe even do free digital home water reports to customers that want to know how well they use their water at home, just a free report. And maybe also look at adding a water use calculator to our Public Works webpage that can give people an idea of, are they using water efficiently by the number of people that live at home?
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really easy tool to look at, and it provides education to each resident about how to conserve our precious resource.
Okay.
Are these?
I think the simple answer to that is we can get as strict as council and the city manager wants us to get on these things. You can do that.
I mean, these are things already being done
Yeah.
by some other cities,
Yeah.
so
We
they're
can-
not
we
coming
can-
out
we
of
can-
nowhere.
We can definitely research
Mhm.
those.
I think all good things to talk about. I think there's some technologies that we're going to need before we're ready to have that kind of system where we can display that for customers. The AMI or automatic meter technologies, we're looking at that, but we'd have some SCADA upgrades. There's a lot of things that we're looking at in terms of other technologies that need to be put in place. My recommendation to you would be to adopt this plan to get us into compliance. We haven't been in compliance for some time. To get this in compliance and let us work on that and bring you back a data-driven approach to all of those things so we could come back with specific data for those different types of uses. And that way you could see how far are we pushing those different standards, what's the appropriate level. I'm not sure any of us are prepared today to tell you whether specific numbers on any of those things are appropriate or not. I'd rather have that data for you so we could come back and have a good policy discussion for the council, and you guys could make a decision of, as Mike was saying, how far do you want to have that conservation? The other thing you're going to have coming up in the near future is a rate study for all of our classes of customers for rates. And one of the things that you'll have an opportunity to do is to look at conservation rates that you could have, so customers and what they would pay more for in terms of usage. And so I think all those things come together into this type of document, but I honestly, I'm just not sure we're quite yet there on
No,
what we
I
would
did my
recommend in one
homework,
of
so I
those.
was ready for this one. But if we can integrate this into the next one, I'd like to see this kind of more beefed up conservation.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So the proposed changes you want really do with a lot of technology. So for the last 3 years, I've been trying to push AMI, but council doesn't seem to have a will to go forward with AMI. But as you know, our water crisis went really large. I think now there might be more consensus to it, but a lot of the information that you want, that you're asking for, will be possible with the new system upgrades, hopefully moving forward. But AMI is the way we're doing. The one thing about AMI will allow citizens to monitor their own water on a daily basis, hourly basis. They'll be able to tell when somebody's even taking a shower in their house. They'll be able to monitor, but businesses as well. Just this past year, we had a business that lost millions of gallons of water unknown to them. It lasted a little over a month, and with an AMI system would have prevented that million of gallons of water loss. Even when council was putting restrictions on, I mean, we still couldn't monitor everything, right? So here's a business that, didn't mean to do it, but because we didn't have the AMI in place, we lost millions of gallons a month for a couple of months. So it's something that we can move forward with.
Right.
If there's really a consensus for the dais to get more data and to give people, make them more aware of their water consumption, AMI is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, when I was reading the reports and the statistics, if people knew how much water they use in their household per day, then they go to a week and they just cut back 10% of that, and that's every home. You would be saving the millions of gallons a year.
Well, our plan is to create a new water conservation plan that residents and businesses can use 365 days a year, not just the times that we're in a drought, but all year long, which sort of coincide with each other here recently. But eventually we'll be out of the drought, but we want to still conserve water. And so our plan in the new water conservation plan is to promote that, and to promote things like both of you gentlemen are talking about using new technology, and then also techniques that you can use at home with your family to reduce water. And it's very simple things as far as brushing your teeth, how long you take a shower, things like that. Make sure your laundry is fully loaded. I mean, there are several things that you can do that if you multiply that by tens of thousands, it has a big impact. So we will be bringing those ideas forward. And there will also be a public outreach into the school system and for the general public on a very enhanced webpage.
All right, anyone else? Motions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this agenda item,
14.
number 14.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilmember Zuniga, seconded by Councilmember Harris, that we approve agenda item 14. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mike. All right, next up is agenda item 15. Consider approval of a resolution accepting the independent auditor's report, the ACFR. Mr. Mohit, I said it right this time.
Yes, sir. So Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, council members, for the record, I'm Pervez Mohit, City's Director of Finance. I have a very brief presentation to review the financial audit that was recently completed for fiscal year ended September 30th.
All right,
So-
Pervez, before you go,
Yes,
is there any objection to item number 14 being finally passed? Or seeing none, number 14 is finally passed. All right, go ahead, thank you.
So the audit requirement is spelled out in the city charter under Article 8, which clearly says that at the close of each fiscal year, an audit shall be made of all accounts of the city by a certified public accountant experienced in auditing municipal governments. The charter further requires that upon acceptance of the independent auditor's report by City Council, a summary thereof shall be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the city. And then it further states that the copies of the audit shall be placed on file in the city secretary's office as a public record. So about the independent auditor. The audit of the city's financial statements and financial records for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2023 was completed by the accounting firm of ABIP PC. ABIP is a certified public accounting firm licensed to practice public accountancy in the state of Texas. This is ABIP's first audit of the City of Kyle's financial statements and financial records.
You'll recall that the city charter also requires us to rotate the independent auditor every 5 years. So we have rotated. This is our first new auditor examining our records. So some of the highlights from the city's financial statements. The city's combined balance sheet as of 9/30/2023 reflects the following. This is at a very high level combined for all city funds. Assets total $750.5 million. Liabilities total $220.2 million. The net position or equity in our system, total assets, is $530.3 million. The overall net position or net equity, which is similar to what you have in your homes, you have the value of your home, you have the loan or mortgage on the home. The difference is the equity. So very similarly, for the city's overall equity of $530.3 million is an increase of $99.2 million, or a 23% increase from the prior fiscal year. Now focusing on the city's primary operating fund, which is the general fund. Revenues and transfers in total $57.5 million for the year. Expenditures and transfers out totaled $56.9 million, leaving an ending fund balance for the general fund of $34.4 million. This fund balance is an increase of $1.3 million, or 3.9% from the prior fiscal year. So about the independent auditor's report. The auditor's report is an independent and unbiased report card that addresses 3 very specific objectives for the city council, city management, our taxpayers, and for the bondholders of City of Kyle. 1, it independently validates the city's financial condition based on an independent audit of the city's financial statements, accounts, and funds. 2nd, it's an independent assessment of the city's accounting and financial reporting systems, internal controls, and compliance with city's financial policies and procedures. And finally, it provides an independent assurance that the city's accounting and financial reporting systems and practices are in compliance with the rules and standards as prescribed by the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. This board sets rules for all municipal governments, all state governments, all county governments, and federal government for the entire U.S. We follow the same rules and regulations for the City of Kyle. So there are 4 types of audit reports that an independent auditor can possibly issue on a government's financial statements. And I'll go over these in the order of worst to best. So, number 1, a disclaimer report. So you see a thumbs down on your screen with the letter grade F. So what does that mean? An auditor issues a disclaimer report when the scope of the auditor's examination was limited in such a way that they were unable to issue a report on the financial statements. The second type of report, moving up, an adverse report. An adverse report is issued by an auditor when the financial management and reporting systems and the controls are in such poor state that the auditors have basically determined that the entity's financial statements cannot be relied upon and the integrity of its management is questionable. Definitely a thumbs down. Number 3, getting better, is a qualified report or modified report. This report is issued when the overall financial statements present fairly, except for a few deficiencies. or non-compliance with the standards prescribed by the board. This is a thumbs down, but it gets a letter grade C in my books. So the best kind of report that an independent auditor can issue on any governmental financial audit is an unqualified report, or also known as the unmodified report. It's a thumbs up, it's an A+ in my books. So before I call up the auditor to share the results of the report with you, I would like to thank the city's entire finance team for their contributions in getting the financial audit completed successfully. Specifically, I want to recognize our accounting manager, Andy Alejandro, for taking the lead in the compilation of the city's financial statements this year. Andy is in the back. Take a bow, Andy, come on.
Right, hang on, Pervez, you've left us all in suspense. What's our grade? Did we get an F? Is this about to take some hard, dark turn in the...
So with that, Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce our auditor. We have Janet Pittman here with the firm ABIP.
If he sets you up to come tell us that we got an F, that would be pretty.
She's gonna walk you all through the audit process they followed, and she has the envelope.
Are we Academy Awards in it?
Thanks, Perez. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Thank you for having me here this evening to go over the results of your audit. So we are required to follow two sets of auditing standards. One is the generally accepted auditing standards issued by the AICPA, and because you are a local government, government audit standards. Your audit opinion is what we call an unmodified. It's the highest level of assurance that you can get from an independent auditor, so it is an A+. And what that means is we did not make any modifications to your financial statements, and they are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that's good news. In addition to our audit opinion that's in your bound document, we also issue a management letter, which is our letter of the conduct of the audit. It is a required communication between us, your independent auditors, and you as the governing body of the city. So your accounting policies that the city follows, which Pervez referred to as the GASBs, they are found in Note 1 of your financial statements. We're also required to tell you if you have any accounting estimates in your financials, and you do. The largest one is your net pension liability. The city really has no control over that. That information comes from the actuaries from TMRS, but it is one of the largest estimates. And estimates are subject to change, and they often do with the net pension liability. We were required to tell you if we had any difficulties or disagreements with management during our audit, and we are pleased to report that we did not. We're also required to tell you if we had any material misstatements that we had to adjust your financials for, and again, we did not have any. That tells me that the information that you're getting throughout the year to make your financial decisions, you can rely on those numbers. We did not make any changes to those. Management has provided us a representation letter, which basically says we got everything we needed to perform our audit, and both the city manager and the director of finance has signed, and we have received that letter. We're required to tell you if management did any shopping for an opinion on an accounting matter, and as far as we know, that did not occur. We're also, as part of our audit, required to audit the compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act that's issued by the state. Your investment policy does comply with that act. That's all I have, unless I would like to thank Pervez and his team, Andy, Connie, and the rest of their team for providing us with everything we needed to perform our audit in a timely manner. And appreciate the council also for allowing us to provide this service.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mayor, with that concludes our presentation. We'll be glad to answer any questions. We do have this beautiful report in front of you. It has wealth of information about the city of Kyle, its finances, as well as statistics.
Yeah, what I've always said is the budget is the document that looks forward. The CAFR, the annual report, is the document that looks back. If you had to give me one to look at to determine whether the city was doing well, I would take this document over the budget, because this is an actual report card based on balance, how much money's in your account, what your debt position is, and so on and so forth. So that's
sir.
what, in accounting classes, this is what they study more than the actual budget itself. So thank you for always getting us that A+.
Yes.
It's very appreciated. Councilmember Harris.
I read all 154 pages. Maybe I'm a little bit of a geek, but I found them to be very, very informative. I especially appreciated the year-to-year analyses in there. It was very informational for me to look at the 10-year bond indebtedness and its relationship to population, and find that although our population has dramatically grown, and we've passed a number of bonds in this last 10 years, that the indebtedness per capita has barely changed at all. So that was something I was looking for in this report, and I found that it to be very thoroughly reported. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, just Perez, thank you for the information, but also thank you for the extra information about the, the firm that we hired to do this. I didn't know about the rotation. I think that's a great tool that's in place to make sure that we're being honest with everything. We're not just using the same folks over and over. So this is a new firm. So at first, with the great job you're doing, you and your team. So it's great to see that the city is in great hands, and we're continuing to move forward in a positive way. So thank y'all for all y'all's hard work. I know it's tough, and just thank y'all for all the man hours.
Thank you, sir.
Motion.
I had questions too.
Okay, Councilor Tobias.
Okay, yeah, right, thank you. Okay, great report. I'm looking at page 2, where it says the local economy. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are very interested in that. It says here, among the major indicators of a stable, expanding yet local economy, including, it says, we are pleased to report that the taxable property valuations increased by 20.6 as compared to the prior tax year. And property tax collection rate has continued to suppress the 99% level, and sales tax collections increased by 11.7 compared to the prior year. And it looks like we also have increased, or we're now at an estimate of 58,450 residents. How does, I guess my question would be, how does that fluctuate with property taxes and also with our sales taxes, especially when it comes to real estate or something like that?
So if I understand your question,
with the housing market and so forth, where are we at on our sales tax and our property taxes? I think that's where a lot of residents are going to be asking, because we're seeing this amount of growth. It's very positive, but where are we in the sense of where our tax values are at?
Yeah, so
for
let me
property?
address sales tax first. Sales tax, we have increased year over year since 2008. And our average increase is around 12% every year, year over year. We are looking at, even though when we did the budget for this current fiscal year that we're in, we had increased our projections by 12%. We're going to break that record. It looks like every month the sales tax collections is higher than what we had projected for this year. The year that the auditors completed, sales tax was higher than the year before. So when you look at our sales tax analysis that we share with council and the next quarterly report that the city manager will be sending it to y'all, you will see month over month sales tax collections exceeding projections. On the property tax side, as the assessed valuations increase, we have over the past at least 3 or 4 years, right off the top of my head that I can recall, the M&O tax rate has decreased. So our tax rate, overall tax rate, has decreased, whereby our residents and property owners and taxpayers have benefited from the growth in new properties adding to our tax roll, as well as growth in the AV itself, assessed valuations itself. our collection rate, property tax collection rate, which is very impressive when you look at other cities compared to other cities. We're at 99.8 to 99.9% is our collection rate on property tax.
Okay, that's good.
I hope that
Yeah,
answered
yeah,
your question.
Yes, it does, because, you hear word on the street, our city's growing, a lot of business is coming. But at the same time, it's like it's getting more and more expensive to live in our city, or the values of the housing are going up and so forth. So it's just trying to get everybody on the same page as far as to see where we're at on our property taxes and where we're at on our sales taxes. So that way we can just get everybody comfortable enough to say we're still doing okay. But we also have to make sure that we're very frugal as far as our expenditures going into the new year, this next year. I mean, it's a good report, but those are some of the theories that I have. And when people pull me aside to talk, they just want to be able to know where their property taxes and how well we're doing. Thank you, sir.
And you'll see the first glimpse at the next council meeting, April 16th. City manager and I will be presenting the 5-year forecast for the city's general fund. So you'll see what that picture looks like at this point.
Good. That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Zuniga.
Thank you, Perez, and for the auditors reviewing this. So you gave me this booklet back in September, right?
Last year?
And so now we've just come around to review it by an independent auditor?
No, so the book that we discussed that you had was the year before.
2022?
Yes, so this is the new book.
A lot of the numbers look the same, right?
The format is the
format's-
same.
yeah.
The numbers are different.
Okay. So I had a question about the variances in budget appropriation, trying to understand it. So we have on table 17, an original budget, and then a final budget by different bins, and then we have actual results. What does the actual results mean? Because sometimes it's hard to figure out what it is I'm reading in those numbers.
So the actual results is the final numbers for the fiscal year that we ended up with. That has been audited independently and verified by the auditors.
So if an original budget is 17 million and final 17.4, and you only have an actual result of 14.9, that's all you reviewed, the 14.9 dollars?
No, the actual expenditures was 17. And it just shows you for comparison purposes what the budget, which is an estimate before the fiscal year begins, what our estimate was for that expenditure and what we actually ended up with.
Okay. And then on the budgetary data, I do like reading this kind of stuff on page 46, where it gives you a quick summary of what is deficient. So I would like to see like this kind of stuff in the books. It says down at the bottom, TERS 4, Blanco River PID, SW Kid PID, Tobros PID. These are deficient, but only in small amounts. So that just gives me like where to go look to determine the balances. That was page 46. And I also like the same thing under the abatements, where I think it said something about we have 1.7 million uncollected in tax abatement last year, 1 million. But these are, I'm sure, were economic incentives that are
Yes.
gradually recouping the property tax. That's page 75. So I think this information is pretty, I really do like looking at that. And I had a question. How do we determine affordability? So when I was trying to do some research on this, people look at the total debt and the per capita, and they come up with the general bonded debt outstanding, and they come up with the percentage. So we're comparing on page 127, our bonded debt, we come up with the percentage of the actual taxable value of the property, and then there's a per capita of $2,800. But how do you determine affordability of Kyle? I mean, based off these
May I
kind of
make a-
numbers?
Just a question. So we are about to approve the audit, and I think that just gets out of the scope of
It's
the
still in
item.
the scope.
I
It's an
understand,
audit.
but to determine affordability, you probably need to do a study, which is not something that was stated in the audit.
I don't know that Pervez is the one to answer.
Who could answer affordability then? Because if the tax rate
But
keeps
is
increasing.
that included into the audit item? I'm not saying we shouldn't have the discussion. It's like we're supposed to be approving the audit.
I understand what you're saying, but the audit says it has numbers about the medium household income of Kyle. So they get those numbers, and then they get these percentage numbers of the debt, taxable rate, and they come up with a threshold of what's affordable in Kyle.
Is there any way that that can be added to the budget studies whenever we'll go over budget?
Because
Well-
somebody may say 300,000 is affordable, and some people may say $600,000 is affordable,
It really
depending on the
depends.
individual
Well, all right,
themselves.
so I was trying to let you get your question out, but to Councilmember Parsley's point, what we're voting on is whether or not our budgetary practices conform to generally accepted
They do.
principles, and that is the scope of the item. So if you're wanting to have a broader conversation about, is this an affordable town, that does need to be separate. Pervez obviously isn't going to be able to respond to your question in a way that's satisfactory,
I think we
unless
could,
he wants to try.
well, I think we could certainly bring something back in the budget process to show you, but
Can't answer it.
it's, looking at debt as a percentage of personal income, as a
Yeah.
percentage of assessed valuation, and comparing that to other communities, we can show you that to see kind of how those levels are. That's how the rating agencies look at that, and when they look at our bond rating, they want to make sure there's an ability to pay that's commensurate with
Exactly.
the income levels. So we can show you some of those measures and bring that back, perhaps on the 16th. I think that's very doable for us to bring that together for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would like to see.
Sure.
Thanks.
I would like to make a motion to approve item 15.
All right, motion by Councilmember Parsley, seconded by Councilmember Tobias that we approve agenda item 15. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0.
Thank
Thank
you,
y'all very
council.
much. Appreciate it. All right, next up is agenda item number 16. Consider approval of a resolution approving a framework for a small business Kickstarter program. Ms. Vargas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Victoria Vargas, Director of Economic Development. A couple of months ago, the council asked for me to bring back the framework for a policy to help small businesses, entrepreneurs in our city, as well as current business owners, be successful in our community. We had our Economic Development and Tourism Board also review the framework so that they can give their feedback, and their feedback has been incorporated into the policy. The document, I tried to lay it out in an easy-to-read format where it's, it's in a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 being the things that we're already implementing and they require minimal resources, all the way up to 5 that would require a significant amount of resources, costs, potentially additional staff. So the very first ones are, action items that we're already implementing. This is in the number 1 section. So one-on-one consultation with city staff, one-on-one outside consultation with external experts. So if anybody comes to our city and they come to our office, myself or my staff is well-versed on how we can help aspiring business owners. We connect them with the SBDC office that's out of Texas State. We also have SCORE mentors that we can connect them with. We have a very extensive online resource directory that's on our website that links them to other resources such as the governor's office, the Hays County Clerk's office on how to file for their business name. Anything, from start to finish, they can find on our website, as well as we can walk them through the process.
Our staff also participates in local networking events. These are fun events that we find around town where we usually meet aspiring business owners, and this is a great way for us to get out there and help them. Such as the Hays County Mastermind Group, Hometown Networking. There's a 1 Million Cups also that we've been attending. So we're always looking for new ways to get involved in the community. We also participate in, we share information about city incentives. At the last council meeting, the council approved the Downtown Revitalization Grant. And I'm so happy to report that today alone we had 3 businesses that were interested in the grant. They just showed up at my office and wanted to talk, and then I got an inquiry online right now. So it seems like that's picking up traction. So hopefully that will continue to evolve. If we go on to the number 2, actions that require just a little bit more resources. Last year we had a small business symposium, and I'd like to convert that to a biannual event, so host it twice a year. And we had representatives from those same resources that I spoke of earlier, SCORE, Texas State SBDC. We had a representative from the governor's office in attendance, Hays County, and we even had our planning staff as well to help answer any questions. So look for that event to come up in June. We met some great business owners at this event, and we're still trying to help them navigate the process and find a location here in Kyle. So it's good to meet them and catch them early. We'd also like to have monthly business networking events where we would host meetups with current business owners and connect them with entrepreneurs so that they can meet each other, share ideas, and collaborate together. We have some new city incentives coming soon. There was some opportunity for small business permit fee waivers. We also have a Kyle Cash program that I'll be introducing soon. So there's more to come on those in the coming months. And then, of course, we also want to promote our program. It's something that we're already doing, but if we have a policy and the framework, we can promote it on our website, social media platforms. We've discussed even utilizing ad space on city billboards that the city has time allotted on to help promote this program and other small business events. May is National Small Business Awareness Month, so we can make a heavy push for promoting small businesses at that time. There's Small Business Saturday that happens in November. So there's certain events that we can help promote small businesses. The ones, actions 3 and 4 are requiring a little bit more resources. We talked about also, my team and I talked about a quarterly guest speaker series. We're targeting this event for the fall of this year. And this is where we would have local business owners come and share their experiences. And, we can host almost like a town hall, and we can invite aspiring business owners or even current business owners to come participate in the guest speaker series. We'll expand our resource directory. And then we also hope to start a mentorship program. We have some very successful small businesses that we have followed through the years, and some of them are our board members, and they have agreed to maybe start a mentorship program with other small businesses. And then there's different training opportunities, entrepreneurship trainings that myself and my staff can take as well through the IEDC program. And lastly, these are number 5. These actions require more resources, which is we'd like to host an annual national leadership conference for small businesses. This could also include the potential full-time addition of another staff member that is a development navigator. And then we can also discuss a small business incubator. These are the options for the program, but first I'd like to know if anybody has any questions about the program.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Vargas? Councilor Tobias will be.
Okay, thank you. Looking at think there was something that you brought up about having to, maybe you were at that point, action item number 5, actions required. Getting a full-time position is what you had mentioned?
That's correct. Some of this could require, so Lauren does a lot of this work now.
Okay.
But really, she also has other roles that she
Sure.
should be playing. So it could require, I mean, a project navigator could be a full-time role, especially as we are growing so quickly and have all these new businesses, new restaurants coming. I think it's a good idea to look at adding
To
additional
look
staff.
at your economic development team, but at the same time, you would have a small section of individuals that focus mainly on the
Solely.
push for small businesses that are coming to the city on
That's
that
correct.
end. Just having that layer up.
Councilmember Harris.
That'd be a budget item, I'm sure.
So if we approve the plan, it looks to me like the items on number 5 would be coming back to the council for approval as you develop a more thorough proposal for those.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, those require a little bit more thought and possibly funding as well.
Councilmember Heiser.
Victoria, I just want to say thank you and the team for putting this together. I think you guys did a great job putting together this framework. I'm really excited to see how far we could take this in terms of trying to lower the barrier to entry for small business owners, now in the short term and long term. And if we need to look at future budget items, I'm completely open to doing that. And I think it sets a precedent for kids also, and I know you and I briefly talked about it. I've talked to the school district a little bit about some of the things that they're doing to help young entrepreneurs, and anything the city can be done or can do to help kids who live here plant seeds for their own futures, I think is something we really should look at doing.
Thank you.
Any additional comments? Councilmember Parsley.
Just the last one. I'm really excited to see this happening, especially because the small business symposium that happened last year, I think it went so good. And the feedback we got from that was all good comments, even from the small business owners that normally complain about anything and everything. They were really pleased to see that. So it makes me happy to see that the city took such a good step into helping and also doing things that other entities were not doing. And I wanted to thank you because I know you guys have been working with Susanna's Dessert House. She's a perfect example of a small business owner that would really benefit from this. And we're constantly using it. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Heiser.
Yeah, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 16, the Small Business Kickstarter Program.
All right, motion by Councilmember Heiser, seconded by Councilmember Parsley, that we approve agenda item 16. Is there discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Vargas. All right, next up is agenda item number 17. Consider approval of a resolution authorizing city manager to negotiate a contract for design services for the community center project. Mr. Elizondo.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item tonight is a resolution accepting the recommendation of the task force and staff recommendation, as well as allowing the city manager to negotiate a contract with the firm, which will be coming back to you. For anyone watching that may not know, I'm going to run through a quick timeline of this community center project. In June of 2023, Council had a visioning workshop where they came up with the framework of this multi-use facility. I'm told that this facility goes much further back than that. But on March 16th, Council had a discussion that really honed in on the facility itself, talking about timelines and funding and also location. And out of that meeting, a task force was formed, a council task force, which was Councilmember Parsley, Tobias, and Harris, as well as our staff that got together, got several proposals from different firms, and those proposals were shortlisted and evaluated on March 22nd, and then brought back for interviews on March 29th. And then tonight, we have a resolution of the approval of the firm that was chosen from that group. Just looking into the future, if this resolution is approved, the city manager will work with that firm to negotiate a contract, and that contract will come back to you guys at the next meeting on April 16th. So you'll see that contract as it comes back. And then they'll begin the preliminary evaluation work, which I'll talk about what that entails on the next slide. But after they do that, around June, July, they should bring a comprehensive evaluation back to council where you guys will evaluate that and make any revisions. And at that point, we'll start putting together what will eventually be a bond election in August. That's the timeline that we're working with. It's a short timeline. We're moving quickly. So the firms that were evaluated, they were looking at these things that came out of that Saturday meeting and discussions as well, which is the location first and foremost, and we're looking at Cal Vista and the Daisy Lane property, as well as an element that will be community outreach and input. This short time frame before August will be obviously a shortened amount of community community outreach and input, but as we move past that, there'll be much more the general layout, concept, and design for the facilities, so some renderings, infrastructure feasibility, of course, which is access into this property, the floodplain, how buildable it is, the location and connectivity around town, and then a broad cost analysis and also cost recovery analysis as far as the programs that are going to be facilitated out of that building. And then the ability to work, all of these firms said that they had the ability to work within this timeline. They were given the timeline and said, we can make that timeline work. So after all of that, the task force and staff recommendation is Burdett Consultants that will begin the preliminary assessment on this project after a contract is negotiated and brought back on the 16th. So council action tonight for this item is to approve the resolution as presented, to approve it with any changes that you might have, or to deny the resolution.
All right, thank you, Mr. Elizondo. Does anybody have any commentary? Anyone from the task force want to weigh in that was a part of the discussions?
Sure.
Councilor Tobias.
Okay, go ahead, start first. Well, I looked at Burdett, took some notes, and what I liked about them, in case anybody was going to be asked, is that they explained of who they were and what their vision was, and they have their architect and finance department all in office. That was one of the things that I like the most, because I know that there's other companies that are around that are statewide or other places. But I felt comfortable with the fact that everything about the components from that company was all in-house and they were local, like literally in the same building. They really focused on possibly getting a community engagement and gaining input that would work with not only our budget, but also some of the construction analysis that would go into play. And another thing is that when it came to their process, that they would look at what facilities that we're looking at, including the land, identifying which component would be best suited for our community. Of course, that was brought up by some other council members, like, are we gonna go more rec center, we're gonna go more library, what percentages are we gonna be using this building for? And they would be willing to help us identify that. They'd also identify stakeholders as well, and also the sites that would be selected and its function of what would be best suited for the component that we're looking at. So recreation for the community, and there's a breakdown of the square footages. They'd be able to work with us on that. The land use again, and what I liked the most was that they brought some of their sites to us. And I know that Councilmember Parsley got really excited about one in Conroe. I just felt very comfortable when we were asking their questions, and they had basically an idea that they've done this before, and they were willing to help us on our end figure out what route we want to go, and then also do all the other legwork on that end.
Okay, thank you for that. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, could you all have a list of some of the projects they've worked on, or just an idea of some of the stuff that they've done that's related to something like this?
So they did have one project that I feel they had the most components that we are looking for in one place, and it was fantastic. It had library, it had a rec center, it had indoor kids area, almost like, not the museum itself, but it did have like a learning center that I would love to go and see it because it was fantastic. It's not done yet, but the proposal that they showed us was great. They also showed up in person. The way they outlined the process from beginning to end, it was clear and consistent, and the timeline they set up was also great. I'm really looking forward to working with them.
Did they have a good list of recommendations?
Yes.
Definitely. Cool. Thank y'all.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I think one of them, was it the Lake Conroe Community
That,
Center?
that's the Conroe, yeah,
Oh,
Lake
yeah, I was familiar
Conroe
with that
Community
one.
Center.
Okay, so they had like the gym area, the recreation center, where they had for basketball, right? And then on the other side, they had also like a playscape area that was indoor. So if anybody was wanting to go work out in the facility, play basketball or walk on the upper track, whatever it is, they have, because again, we're looking at going up, they'd have a little area for children to go to.
Nice.
For the very bottom. I believe they also had this swimming area and also splash pad kind of an area on that end. But what I also liked, one of them, was the idea of also having, if we were to throw in the concept of the library, they would also have an outdoor sitting area. So it's like the whole kind of complex that I had looked at before, but it was just all different pieces coming together, and they also would work with us on designing something that we were shooting for the senior citizen or a senior section for the residents to use and so forth.
Cool. All
We
right.
like
Thank y'all for y'all's time, task force. Appreciate the feedback.
Motions?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 17.
Second?
All right, motion by Councilmember Heiser, seconded by Councilmember Parsley, that we approve agenda item 17. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilmember Zuniga.
Yeah, what specific questions did y'all ask them about the land use? Because I know this one's very unique. There are a lot of questions and concerns about the topography. So what questions did y'all ask?
They will do a study, once they come with a draft, there will be all kinds of studies done to the land before there is anything done.
Yeah, the task force was not tasked with that study or to ask for those questions. It was more about hiring the firm to bring in, to design the building and everything else.
In such a short
Yeah,
time.
that's a different scope of work. That'll be for the design.
But
No,
ironic,
but we need to understand the.
but on that end there, they were aware of our sites.
All of
No,
that.
They
I
did
do-
their-
I do like that you had floodplain
They
there as one
did
of the
look at all that.
topics.
When they came in, they already said, we see that you guys already have two specific sites in mind.
Yeah.
So that tells me
They had already done
they
the
did their homework already.
They saw the
And they're
FEMA
already
map.
identifying what would be feasible for a facility or what would be another route.
Sure.
And so they already came in saying that, hey, we already know that your guys are also on a time limit. The clock is on for November, if we were gonna go this route. And so they kind of knew already by doing their homework what we were kind of already going with site location, kind of like what Mr. Heiser was saying earlier about, okay, well, what is your component?
Right.
Percentages of what the facility would use for, and they would help us to go from there. And then, most important, what I liked was the community engagement, saying that we will do what we can to reach out to the community, even if it was to have an open house.
Yeah.
We can do something like that and get feedback from the community,
No,
because this means a lot.
I'm very impressed. I want it to be the very beautiful project, but just that we get that firm knowledge that we need.
Yeah, that is definitely part of what they bring to the table. We were asking for a feasibility study of these two pieces of property and how appropriate they are for the needs of our community, as well as what the needs of our community are. So they brought their whole team to the table there.
Yeah.
And they had their engineer, their landscape architect, who was amazing. She was great. Their designers, they had, 4 people there at the table, I think, and very knowledgeable about site work and what it would take. So they're on it.
Right. No, I mean, I like what I'm looking at just on this page, so, but.
And as a veteran council member and along with Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, when we first started those projects in 2020, I know a lot of like La Verde, and a lot of those questions about vendors, I brought those up. What are your contractors? How would you, in the past, my question was to them, if there was a change in the design or change in your vendor or materials, how well do you communicate with the city on that? Because you notice when we're doing La Verde, over and over and over again, we're getting the change orders, and also with Heroes, because, oh, by the way, we got to change this scope and so forth. That was a big priority question that I had from them. And they said that they would work with us on that end, and that's why having the in-house whole team in one area, where they would have a project manager and they'd also have a lead person that they would have available for us on that end, versus having to contact another third party. Because we want to be able to, if we're going to get this up and running, like always, we need, we need to break ground and keep it moving.
Yeah, the good thing was that we had contingency on those projects, so Heroes Memorial didn't go over. La Verde was, we definitely, we all know about that one, so it's kind of a tough one, but yeah, definitely. So it's great that we got this. One of the things is the pandemic is now over, so we probably won't have a lot of those issues, but it's great that y'all did y'all's due diligence, and I love that you have the experience, Michael, from the last one, so it's great. So I think y'all did a great job. Thank y'all.
All right, any further discussion?
Thank
All's
you,
in
task
favor?
force members. Thank you, task force members.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Jesse. Next up is agenda item number 18. Consider approval of a resolution approving a waiver for the dedication of public rights-of-way allowed by Section 4181 of the city's adopted subdivision ordinance to allow a portion of the subdivision to be served by private streets for the Live Oak Townhomes project, approximately 758 acre site located east of Live Oak Street and north of the intersection between Porter and Cockrum. Mr. Lutz.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council. Jason Lutz, Planning Manager for the record. If this item seems familiar to some of you, y'all have seen this before. This was considered by Council on September 19th of last year. That request was denied for the private streets for the Live Oak Townhome development, but Council did provide some feedback regarding the need for connectivity, sidewalks in the development, and then obviously parking was a concern for the entire site. So again, the applicant's requesting a waiver that's allowed by code under the Section 4181. It would allow most of the subdivision to be served by private streets, but they would have two public rights-of-way that serve that property. It's approximately 17 acre sites in the area of Live Oak, Porter, Cockerham intersections. They are proposing a 4-lot subdivision. It was 3 last time, but because of the additional right-of-way, they'll cut 1 lot into 2. This is infill residential townhomes. They're looking at about 166 units this time. Is a slight decrease from the last time you saw this. It is zoned R1T. They've got R1 to the north, northwest, northeast, and then R2 to the southeast. Here's a copy of the zoning map. You kind of see what's in the vicinity. And then the proposed layout. So very similar to what you saw the first time. I do want to call out the public street that connects to Live Oak from Montero Drive. That one was private last time. This one is going to be public. And then the north-south was also public this time. All other streets are private. But you can see here there's some blue highlighted squares. Those are the off-site guest parking spaces. And then their fire lanes are striped on here, and they did include sidewalks per the request of council, and not just in the subdivision, on adjacent streets as well. That'll be part of their subdivision plat. Again, they're proposing their main access via Montero and the new east-west connection on Live Oak. Secondary access will be on Cockerham, but that is a private street as well. They are looking at serving the rest of the townhomes with private streets. And then they are looking at dedicating additional right-of-way along Porter Street, Live Oak, and Cockerham. They will also be improving and extending Cockerham. That right now, that property does not, that road does not go all the way up, and I believe it's caliche gravel after that. So the subdivision code does allow council to approve this for private streets. It gives some discretion and does specifically call out townhomes as one of those uses that would allow it. But it does require that not all of those streets be private, so there are a couple of public in here. Easements for public utility and services and public safety shall be provided in those private roads. Again, Montero Drive is a new street connection to Live Oak. They will continue those 50 feet right-of-way that you see in the vicinity. All other streets are going to have a pavement width of curb to curb of 20 feet. They are going to have 5-foot sidewalks on each side of the street. And then the private streets will be painted red, designated fire lanes, and that will be a maintenance of the HOA or the condo regime that's going to be set up for this property. So in coordination with the developer and at council's direction, we looked at the property, met with the applicant. So they have also allowed additional guest parking spaces between the buildings, again highlighted on the map. They are providing the sidewalks. I think the big one was moving the buildings back. Last time they were roughly 14 feet from the edge of pavement. Now they're going to be 20 feet, and that's actually from the sidewalk, not from the edge of pavement. So that would allow 2 cars in the garage, 2 in the driveway.
Much better.
So if we're looking at total parking spaces on this one, we're at 749 are provided on this site. By code, only 415 are required. And then, so the breakdown is 332 garage, 332 driveway, and then 85 satellite guest parking spaces. So these are the options before you. Obviously, staff recommends option 1, but I will go ahead and answer any questions you may have at this time.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr.
I
Lutz?
just have a comment. Aren't you happy that we denied this?
100%.
The first time?
Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Just real quick, you talked about sidewalks. Why did we go with 5 foot instead of 6 foot? Why did council go in that direction?
Right now, 5 foot is our required by code in our subdivision ordinance, so we're just staying consistent with our code. I think from that, there's a practical standpoint on just the layout and setbacks. I know 1 foot doesn't seem like a lot, but that's 2 feet per street,
Yeah.
8 feet, 10 feet. So yeah, it could affect the
I
density.
was just wondering about what the layout was on there. But the other thing is, did we put lights up and down the sidewalks, or is it just sidewalks?
These are just sidewalks because they are private streets, so they're not
No,
required.
on the public
to-
side.
On the public side, they'll have to meet our standard specifications for lighting. Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good. That's my 2 questions. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Parsley.
Who will be maintaining the lights in the private roads?
We haven't seen the plan for the private roads cross-sections. I don't know there'll be lights there. But the public streets, anything that's in the public realm is the city.
Because that is another issue the peninsula has. It's like, who will be maintaining the lights?
Anything on the private side, I believe, is going to be, if it's public right-of-way, will be theirs. I'll have to kind of research through the code to see if I hadn't looked at lighting just yet, so I'll have to do some research on that. But if that's a concern for council, we can make sure that we put that on them if that's an issue.
It is. It is a concern for me because my street has no lighting. And so I'm assuming that the private roads that they are proposing probably won't have any. So we will be maintaining the public ones, which is glad. Like, I'm glad that they are having private roads just because we don't have to maintain those. But the lighting, it's a concern to me. And are they having sidewalks on both sides or just one side?
No, it is both sides of the streets, on the internal private and the publics as well, so.
Okay, that's it.
Councilmember Harris.
This is a little bit off topic for the streets, but what provisions have they made for amenities in parks? I didn't see any on that plan.
It's hard to, let me see if I can go back to the plan. I don't know that they programmed the open space, but if you look on the north, up and down, the north-south street, where the public street label is, that area is a little open space park, so I don't know if that's gonna be amenitized, if that's gonna be a dog park. We haven't gotten that far in the development site plan process. We were just in the plating process when the private streets came up, and so they came and asked for this waiver so they could finalize that.
Okay, so
that'll
they'll
be
have to comply with parks and amenities.
Yes, so parkland ordinance will be something that they look at, dedication or fee in lieu.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Councilmember Hauser.
Can we go back to the options again? All right, so ultimately, this is going to have to come back at some point, right, for us to approve this, the development?
No,
As a
this
whole?
one will go to P and Z for the plat, and then it'll be a staff site development application. So I do not believe y'all would see this again unless there was some kind of situation with variances or something like that. But this would be an administrative approval moving forward, outside of P and Z for the plat.
Yeah, we already voted for the zoning several years ago. So they have townhome zoning, but in order to make a townhome project work, they need to use private streets. So when they originally proposed private streets, they weren't including city standard for sidewalks and things like that, extra parking. So we said no, and they've come back and they've added those specific things that we said no on account of. The private the sidewalks plus the extra parking.
And when was this zoning?
Several years
Approximately?
ago. I don't know what would be a more appropriate zoning than townhomes there. It's too small for residential. It's not right for commercial. It's packed in.
I just don't think like now is the time.
How many
I'm just telling you,
buildable
this
acres do
project,
they
they've
have?
been trying to get this project across the line for 5 years.
I mean, I don't really care, like
Yeah.
candidly, like I don't.
The question is it appropriate to allow them to have
Well, I
private
understand.
streets?
I was trying to make sure that I understood the assignment here. Because I don't want this development, but if it's gonna happen anyway, and we're just, ignore me.
Can I have a question? How many acres, buildable acres do they have?
17 acres, it's fairly flat. They'll have to adhere to impervious cover calculations, landscaping, so the site
Can you
may
go back
change a
to the
little bit.
number of housing?
There's also through the site plan, they're gonna have to go through the tree preservation, tree ordinance. The site is filled with a lot of trees, so most likely a lot of mitigation will need to be discussed with the applicant. Again,
How
they
many
have
units do they have?
166 on this plan.
And they are complying with the amount of front yard that they have to have?
Yes.
Just another thing, as I'm looking on the map of where this is gonna be in the proximity to Wallace Middle School and knowing that they're probably gonna be chopping up areas near where kids traverse to and from school, and we already have that other development on the south side of Veterans where it's pretty unwalkable to get to Silverado and Hometown Kyle. Like, is there anything that we can do while this is up here to make sure that it's safe for kids to be walking through the construction? 'Cause,
I mean, if
like,
you
look at it on the map, they're like right across the street from each other, more or less.
Yeah, I think from a construction safety standpoint, we kind of go through our normal processes on fencing. I mean, life safety on the building sides is always paramount. I think the bonus to this project is the improvement on Porter and Live Oak and some of those sidewalks that they are going to be creating to kind of fill in those gaps. If we do have students coming from other areas that are trying to get there, I'm not sure, from a construction standpoint, what we could do as part of a.
Yeah. Well, infill development within walking distance of your downtown is kind of like a bullseye for downtown revitalization. Because this is, you think, oh, is this a burden to the schools? Well, townhome zoning provides for very few children per capita compared to the one right next to it, which is, large lot residential, which is what does put the kids in the schools. This is what puts disposable discretionary income within a, 2-minute walk of our downtown. So not wanting infill projects in the downtown area is something that at the time the council didn't want. They wanted this to stay the field where all the kids go behind and bury their trash and get into all their illicit activities, as opposed to allowing for a really profitable infill development with a different housing type than just more, single-family residential, which is what is producing the burden on the kids. But, I mean, it's never been an easy, lot to zone.
I have one more question. So I'm reading on the code of ordinance that says a minimum of 2 off-street parking spaces shall be provided for each living unit.
Yes.
But they are having enough space to park in the driveway, including the garage. However, that does not equal to the 2 on-street parking spaces per unit.
So 2 per unit is all that's required in the code. They're essentially putting in 4 per unit.
So they're including the driveway
Yes,
as
because
parking?
the driveway is outside of their private street. Whether a home has a garage or not, it may have a carport, it may just have driveways, as long as they have the physical space, the 9x18 space outside of the right-of-way on their private property, that is considered their parking space. I think it's a little bit different in the peninsula because parking was calculated based on square footage.
You have a picture in there, if you don't mind putting it up, just so everybody knows why I fear so much the private roads.
don't know if I have that.
Yeah, it's
image
right
in the
there on the
slide.
backup material. It's in a
Are we getting
different
past the
page.
scope of this?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have access to the backup material, just what's in the slide, but.
Well, the bottom line is that
This is
this,
just
this
about
one
the
solves
zoning.
everything that the peninsula.
I know.
Every
I
problem the
understand.
peninsula
Like,
has,
I'm
this
trying
one's
to, I
gone
don't like
above
it,
and
but
beyond
there
to
is
solve
just
it.
no way for me to deny. I mean, they came back with they fixed everything that I complained
right.
about, so. There is nothing.
Is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item 18. I cannot believe I did.
Second.
All right, motion by Councilmember Parsley, seconded by Councilmember Harris to approve agenda item 18. And just to reiterate, they did come back with every single approval and fix that we asked them to come back with. And the townhomes are their zoning, so. All right, any further discussion?
I'd like to make sure that the amenities, as Dr. Laura Lee asked for, maybe we look at in the plan moving forward
Yes, sir.
for the people living there.
All right, anyone else?
I'll just quickly say that, for those people who don't know where this area is at and who's watching, it's right over there by, of course, Golden Chick in that back area, also by Silverado where we took down that stop sign. So now, if this goes through, they have 719 more cars in that area because you got 719 more parking spaces. So just be aware where that area is, San Felipe Drive, Wallace Middle School, when you got all those cars that are trying to leave, and it's over there on Veterans Drive. If those things get full because of the way the housing market is, everything's getting rented quick and purchased. That's 718 more vehicles that will be on that road, up and down.
But it's already zoned for that, so
True.
there is nothing we can do.
There's nothing we can do, but I'm letting the residents know that it goes
We
through,
can-
which they have a right to build this.
We can put a roundabout at Spring Branch in Burleson, which is what it needs
Right.
desperately
So-
bad, way more than a traffic
So,
light.
Just
Just
y'all heads
saying.
up.
Yeah, let's do that.
People
I'll
complain about
support
traffic.
that.
Keep traffic
All right.
moving.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right,
Jesse.
any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 6-1.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right,
Thank you,
next,
council.
next up, agenda item 19, first reading. This item has a public hearing. Consider approval of an ordinance updating the City of Kyle fee schedule and Appendix A of the City of Kyle Code of Ordinances to modify fees for building, engineering, parks, planning, and public works. Ms. McCollum, you presented on this at the last meeting, right?
I did.
All right,
This
so.
is just a continuation.
So if there's no objections, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Seeing none, public hearing is now open. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward and speak on this item? All right, seeing none, we're going to close the public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, this is a continuation of the items that we discussed last week, really looking at raising and truly doing a budget amendment to Exhibit A that's attached to our fee schedule in regards to how we look at fees related to planning, building, engineering, and some public works fees. So, and we also looked at the Kyle Fire Department fees with this too. I included also the continuation of the benchmark studies, kind of what the fees that we've looked at, how this fee schedule would affect the fees that we take in here at the city, as well as some examples for each of those. So all the attachments in the fee schedule and the ordinance really represent and are concurrent with what was presented to you last meeting.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. McCollum? Motions?
I make a motion to approve agenda on item number 19 there.
Second.
All right, motion is made by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Councilmember Parsley that we approve agenda item 19. Is there discussion on the motion? I'm going to wait for Kaiser to come back.
Oh, so you can finally pass. Yeah.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
19.
All opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Is there any
Yeah, question.
objection to this item being finally passed? All right,
When-
seeing none, it's finally
When will
passed.
the new fees be implemented?
I would say as soon as we can post it and get the ordinance signed. We've started, people that are coming in, we've definitely talked to them about some of these changes. We're working on updating the fees in our permitting software once this is approved as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is agenda item 20, second reading. Consider approval of an ordinance amending the city's adopted budget for fiscal year 23-24 to authorize mayor and city council members to access health insurance program, the same terms of full-time city employees, and amending ordinance 1043 regarding city council's health insurance access. This item was presented and discussed at the last item. Unless there's something new, I'd just rather vote and move on. I'd like to motion to approve.
Yep.
All right, motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Heiser to approve agenda item 20. Is there discussion on the motion? Councilmember
Discussion,
Tobias.
please, if you don't mind. I know we're in a hurry to approve this. Listen, all of you on the dais, I am not here to argue with you and debate with you on this. I understand it's a very sensitive topic. But all I ask, this is all I ask, because I already know the four of you will approve this. You owe it to the residents to just give your explanation of what it is. And I still have not heard from my original question, why are we bypassing the city charter for this item when we're going to be bringing this back next year? So, like I said, it's pretty much a majority vote on this, but you guys represent me as well. I'm a taxpayer. You are my city council members and you are my mayor. Okay, you represent me too. So I do have a right to be able to hear from all of you the reasons why you feel that we have to override the charter and also to provide this service. I am just like you guys too. I'm not here to plead my case of me working 50 hours a week. And also, when I first got on council, I used to go into COVID units wearing bunny suits and then come to council meetings. Okay? But I just feel that you all that are voting for this, that you owe the residents that are here and that are listening online your explanation of why you should vote for this item. And for those who continuously say, well, I do this for service, my heart's always been involved, now's your opportunity to lay your piece. That's all I'm asking.
All right, well, respectfully, I do believe that the council, all very on the record, said their positions at the last meeting, and it's clearly something that polarizes the community, but there's no action that I've taken more votes on or been more transparent about over the years in terms of explaining why I support what I support than this particular item. So to make the case that those who are on the other side of the fence, which are taking hard votes with opposition, are not making their case and somehow owe more of an explanation than the one they've already given is not right, in my opinion.
Well,
so we've all already been on the record. Folks have decided how they want to phrase it, how they want to spin it, how they want to make their case. We just need to move on. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
I wanted to say something too.
All right.
So we're not separated on council though. So if this passes and there are still some no's up here, the community still looks at us collectively and says, this council approved pay raises, health insurance. So whatever we do, it does have a ripple effect on all of us, whether you're with it or against it.
That's right.
So
that's
Miguel,
part of
Miguel,
it.
we're blamed for things that councils in 2005 did or didn't do. So, I mean, how is this any different?
That is true.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Rizzo,
Aye.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Zuniga,
No.
Heiser,
Yeah.
Tobias,
Nay.
Parsley,
Nay.
Harris.
Yes.
All right, motion carries 4-3. Next up, agenda item 21, consider directing the city manager to rename July 13th, September 14th Market Day events. Councilmember Parsley.
Aye. So before everybody thinks this is political, because I think I kind of got some feedback. When we saw the Friday report and we were going over the Market Days events, I noticed that April didn't have a name, July didn't have a name. So it looks like the empty box is there. So, and again, I've been one of the members who has always been opposing to having themes for anything city-related, and if it were up to me, I wouldn't have any political booths or tents or anything like that. But since everybody else wants to have something for market days, I figure why not maybe include for next year some sort of spring type of theme for the months of April, flowery theme. I don't know if there is any way that we could ask staff to look into ideas for the months of April. Maybe dedicate in July, since July is when Independence Day happens, that we were able to have some red, white, and blue kind of colors or a theme. I'm not throwing any names. I'm not saying Freedom Fest or none of that, by the way. I'm opening up to council to have that discussion because July is when we celebrate Independence Day, and Independence Day is a big deal for the city of Kyle since we launched the fireworks.
And you said September for Hispanic Heritage?
September is because the name, and again, I don't know the history behind it, is Squeeze Box. However, the theme has been more towards the Hispanic Heritage Month, and I think we should try to switch it to have it as Hispanic Heritage Market Days instead of Squeeze Box, because we found some weird definitions online about that word, so.
Does anyone have objections to doing Hispanic Heritage Month as a theme for the September market days? Well, I don't know about April, but can we motion on the July and September and then maybe revisit April since it's already April?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item 21, designating July 13th as an independence-themed market days, including red, white, and blue, and September 14th as a market days themed towards Hispanic Heritage Month.
Second.
All right, motion by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Parsley. Is there discussion on that motion? Councilmember Tobias.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Mariana Espinosa, our events coordinator. I know a lot of times council comes up and is expressing changing specific types of themes for different activities and so forth. And like with me, when I had the pop-up museum, I didn't go to the city. It was not a city function. It was through a nonprofit group that helped sponsor that for me. So with these types of things, what would be some of the ideas that you would want to bring forward to in July or September or through the months? Because it seems like we're always at this, we want to have a market days, but then of course there's celebrations that are coming in like in April, whether it's Easter or May. Is it going to be I don't know, National Police Week or just Cinco de Mayo? What is on the radar for the rest of the year, so that way we can have an idea of what to look forward to?
Okay. Mariana Espinosa, Parks and Recreation Department. These two recommendations actually fit really well into what's already kind of planned. So during the month of July, we already decorate the park in red, white, and blue for the 4th of July Independence Day holiday. And then the September market day is already titled Squeeze Box / Hispanic Heritage Month. So we would just have to remove the Squeeze Box part of it and just theme it Hispanic Heritage Month. And the history behind that was called Squeeze on the Square. So it focused on the accordion-based music, and then that they developed into more of the Spanish accordion-based music for Hispanic Heritage Month, and that's kind of how it evolves. But it's already a Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah, so the Squeeze Box basically dealt with the music that was played through an accordion.
Correct.
So
all
like
genres.
So like whenever Austin has their Urban Fest, and they actually have it as a jazz fest, it's basically entitled with musics or instruments that are used for playing that type of music. So that's where the Squeeze Box terminology came from, was we were identifying a specific instrument that plays specific music.
Right, and it was all genres of accordion music. It just, like I said, the last couple years developed into more Hispanic accordion-based music in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
And at La Verde, you also have themes, though. So what are you choosing during the summer at La Verde and in this year?
That goes out of the scope, though.
Is it out of the scope?
Yes, because
But
we're
there's
talking
a theme
about
over there, too.
market days.
I mean, there's a theme over there,
We're talking about market
too.
days in downtown.
I'd like to make a motion to call the question.
I think we're just
All right,
overthinking
hang on.
this with themes.
Was that a second, Mayor Pro Tem? All right, the question has been called by motion by Councilman Parsley, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. It's non-debatable motion. Roll call vote. Yes ceases debate. No continues debate.
Parsley,
Yes.
Heiser,
You see what I have to work with?
Harris,
Yes.
Mitchell,
Yes.
Rizzo,
Yes.
Zuniga,
See,
Tobias.
All right. Motion to end debate passes unanimously, so the question's called. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. All right, motion carries 7-0. Motion to adjourn.
what?